What's going on, people? Welcome once again to a new video. If you've not subscribed to the channel yet, please do so by hitting the subscribe button. It's the red button down below. And yeah, once you watch this video and you like what it's about, please hit the like button also. It goes a long way when you hit the like button. It makes the YouTube algorithm show this video to other people. So yeah, thank you as you do that. So today I'd like to talk to us about how the decisions that we make, can actually influence the path that we follow at the end of the day. So sometimes making the wrong decisions may eventually lead us down from apparent success into a path of failure. And I want to narrate, I would like to talk about this topic through the story of a boxer who was a former world champion, who was apparently someone who was going to make so much success, but who eventually ruined everything for himself because of a slew of bad decisions. So stay tuned. Paul Spadafora was an American boxer who was born in 1975, and at just 24 years of age, he became the world champion in the lightweight category of boxing. At the end of his career, he had a record of 51 wins, 1 loss, and 1 draw. And based on this record, you could see the sign of somebody who was, heading for success. A little bit about his childhood. So he came from a very poor family, and he lost his father, to drug overdose when he was 9 years old. So his father was on drugs and overdosed and died. And then, having no one to take care of him, he started boxing at age 11 and even dropped out of school to focus on boxing full time. As an amateur, Spadafora won 75 of his 80 fights, just to show you how good this guy was. And once he achieved that record, he decided to turn pro and go into the professional ranks of boxing. He made his debut in 1995. He won his 4 fights that year, and then in 1996, the year after, he had 6 more fights, and he won all these fights by knockout. So this guy was strong, he was fast, he was powerful, and 3 years later in 1999, after only 4 years, as a boxer, and at 24 years of age, he won the world title, the boxing world championship. And his journey to success, was just starting out and was very, very bright. Paul Spadafora held the International Boxing Federation's World Championship from 1999 until he decided to give it up in 2003 because he wanted to move to a different weight category. Many of us know Floyd Mayweather because he basically became one of the most famous boxers in the world today and one of the richest boxers also. It's interesting to point out at this juncture that Spadafora employed Floyd Mayweather as a sparring partner, just to show you how talented Spadafora was and where he was heading to. At that time, when Floyd Mayweather was still very young, Spadafora brought him into his training camp and said, okay, you know what, we're going to spar together. And the video of this sparring session is available online. Just look at how Spadafora was dominating Mayweather. Look at how he was schooling Mayweather. Look how he was teaching Mayweather how to box. He gave him a lesson. He was throwing the jabs. He was moving. He was ducking. He was basically showing a very high quality. And Floyd Mayweather is someone who we all know as an untouchable boxer. Untouchable. But look how Spadafora made easy work of him. So this man was really good. This man was really talented, and I just keep mentioning these points to buttress the fact that the guy was an exceptional talent, and he was somebody who was going to become a big star in boxing if he had not derailed in his path. So how did Spadafora's problem start, you may be wondering. In 2003, the same year in which he gave up his boxing title to move to a higher weight class, he had a problem with his girlfriend. Mind you, because of his kind of background that he had, his father died of a drug overdose. Spadafora had problems with drug abuse and alcohol, even from a very young age. So he had an argument with his girlfriend in 2003 at a petrol station. They were arguing over flat tires. And what did Spadafora do? In anger, he brought out his gun and he shot his girlfriend. Luckily for her, she did not die, but he was arraigned before a judge who even granted him bail. but he couldn't fulfill the conditions of this bail because he went back to taking drugs and was sent back to jail. Luckily for him, he spent only 6 months in jail, and if he had made the right decisions from that point onward, he could have revamped his career and continued on the path of success. But then, what did he do when he came out of jail? He went back into drugs and alcoholism, and in 2008, he was jailed again because he didn't obey the restraining order that was placed on him by his girlfriend, by his ex-girlfriend. So he was seen with her even when the authorities had told him not to be seen with her, and he went to jail in 2008, and after being released, he tried to make a comeback to his boxing career in 2009, but it was too late. Nobody was interested in watching him anymore because his train had basically passed. There were many other newer boxers who were also showing talent and who were not getting into trouble, who were reliable to the fans. So again in 2011, he was arrested on a DUI charge, driving under influence, and he was fined. He spent some time in jail again, and then in 2012 he had some fights, but again people were not interested. These were majorly club level fights where he wasn't getting paid as much as he used to when he was a world champion and when he was much younger, and people were not buying tickets to these kinds of fights. Again, later on in his life, between 2012 and 2016, at one point he was charged with assault and harassment for throwing a lady to the ground because she refused to give him her drink. So he forcibly took her drink from her, drank part of this drink, and once she complained, he hit her and threw her on the ground. And then again in 2016, he was arrested on charges of assault and terror, and he was also accused of stabbing his brother in the thigh. So if you look at this guy's story, it's basically a story of getting in and out of trouble, being unable to focus on one thing, being unable to focus on his career and build a name for himself. So this guy was extremely talented. He was basically what you call like a genius in boxing, but in spite of this talent and this skill, he couldn't make anything for himself because every day of his life he was in one trouble or the other. In life, our stories are never the same and all fingers are not equal. So some people have an easy background, an easy childhood, and everything goes smoothly for them. Some people have tough backgrounds also, and they have to struggle to make success. But irrespective of the background that the person has, once you live in a land with opportunity to make something of yourself, I think that it's important that a person is able to focus and consistently make the right choices in order to prevent them from derailing and becoming failures. So there are many other examples of boxers who are even from the third world, who had worse conditions than Paul Spadafora, but they were able to make the right choices. They are not perfect and people make mistakes, but it's just for us to know that there's always two choices to make, the right or the wrong choice. And irrespective of the background that a person has, one can still choose to make the right choices. An example of this is another boxer, Manny Pacquiao. Manny Pacquiao is an 8th division world champion today, and he's currently a senator of the Philippines. He grew up on the street of the Philippines, very poor, very wretched, extremely lean and hungry. He had nothing for him, and he started boxing just to make a life for himself. He said something which is very inspiring, which I find very, very nice. He said, "Many of you know me as a legendary boxer, and I'm proud of that. However, that journey was not always easy. When I was younger, I became a fighter because I had to survive. I had nothing. I had no one to depend on except myself. I realized that boxing was something I was good at, and I trained hard so that I could keep myself and my family alive." So this is a guy who was born and raised in the Philippines on the streets with all the drugs and all the alcohol and all these things, but he figured that he had to make something of himself. And today, like I said, he's a senator in the Philippines also. He's an 8th division world champion. He has a net worth in the range of hundreds of millions of dollars, and he has a beautiful family also. And even just last week, at 40 years of age, he became the oldest boxing champion in the welterweight division. So this is somebody who had a tough background but who made success for himself. Another example, which is close to home for us Africans, is Anthony Joshua. Anthony Joshua was also raised in the United Kingdom on the streets of Watford, and he mixed up with the kind of wrong group when he was young. He began to sell drugs on the streets, and at some point he was arrested by the police. They were going to remove him from the Olympic boxing team, and at this point Anthony Joshua realized that if I'm taken out of the boxing team, then I can't make anything for myself. And at that point he made a vow to himself to stay away from drugs and to focus on his career and to stay away from the narrow path, to stay away from the wrong path, and to do only what was right. So you see, he made that decision. He became Olympic gold medalist. He became a world champion with multiple belts, and he basically achieved success. So irrespective of his background, he was able to carve a path for himself and achieve success. And the final example in this is Floyd Mayweather himself, and many of us know Floyd Mayweather as one of the most successful boxers of our generation. He had 50 fights, 50 wins, no losses. And Floyd Mayweather was also a guy who was raised in the projects on the streets. His father was in and out of jail for drug use, and he basically had no other figure in his life to look up to. But he focused on boxing because he felt that that's the only way to make a success out of himself, and he kept boxing and boxing his way until he got to the top, until he became the highest paid boxer in the world. And today Floyd Mayweather is a person who doesn't even drink alcohol, and he doesn't even use drugs, even though his father had these problems, and he has always followed the clean path. Personally, I do not like Floyd Mayweather as a person because I think that he's too arrogant, but one cannot deny the fact that he had a very, very blissful career, and the reason why he had this career was because he consistently made the right decisions. So I guess the point of this video is to highlight the fact that the decisions that we make have an influence on the path that where we end up in the future. So even with all the talent in the world, if you consistently make the wrong decisions, you would end up not achieving success, and people will turn their backs on you. But when you have but even with a tough background, a tough childhood, as long as one is able to focus on what one wants to achieve, one can achieve success. So that's the story of Spadafora, and I hope that we can learn one or two things from this story. And yeah, drop your comments in the comment section. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon to be notified when I upload any other videos. And yeah, drop your comments like I said, and share the video. Have a nice one.